Good morning and good evening, as it is 8 p.m. in Poland now. Good morning, Janet. Good morning, Charity, the old friends. I am going to introduce myself a bit for those who don't know me and whom I don't know. So my name is Kuun, that means the empty cloud. I am living in Warsaw at the old town square, and this is where I am now. Every morning, I walk down to the river, to the parking lot, and I meditate when I walk. I defocus my eyesight, I defocus my view, and I can see everything in the same time, without grasping, without discriminating. And immediately, I can hear my breath. I am well trained to hear my breath, to maintain my attention to the very end of my breath, of my exhalation breath. At the very end of the exhalation breath, there is this place where there's no thinking. There's just quietness and peacefulness. And then I am not so sure whether this is me who is watching, or this is me who is being watched. I am talking to you, and I am aware that there is a huge flood in southwest Poland. An enormous tragedy for many people. And I am aware also that behind our eastern border, Ukrainians are still being killed and wounded by Russian aggressors. So please, let us bow together to all of them. The discovery I made last year was that I was not in a hurry anymore. I was in a hurry. I have always been in a hurry. I was trying to not to be in a hurry, to slow down, to stop. And I was successful for a while. But then, actually soon, I was in a hurry again. And this time I stopped being in a hurry, and it happened by itself without any effort on my side. I realized this when someone apologized to me that some things last, that some things need some time, etc. And surprisingly for myself, I found myself saying, it's okay, I am not in a hurry. And this repeated. So this is completely different state of mind and body, completely different. And this does not mean doing things slowly. I work a lot. I have a lot of patients, a lot of students, etc. And I am not in a hurry anymore. I don't know whether this is a fruit of my practice, of my Zen practice, or this is a fruit of my age, or something else. I'm happy to see the Zendo that I love. I am deeply related to Sonoma Mountain and to the Zen Center. I spent here several years. First, I came for a year. then a few times for half a year. And then I was coming twice a year for the winter and summer angles. Sonoma Mountain is my second home, or just my home. My spirit is infused by this landscape, the fragrances, the atmosphere. And also, this is the landscape of my childhood. All the movies I watched as a kid took place in Sonoma County. For example, Zorro. When we played Zorro with other kids, I was the one. Last time I was on Sonoma Mountain at this ceremony of Nyoze becoming an abbot and Roshi stepping aside. This was also the 15th anniversary of Sonoma Mountain Zen Center. The ceremony was beautiful, authentic, alive, and intimate. Hoitsu Suzuki Roshi took part in the ceremony, and I was impressed by his way of being and teaching. At his talk, he shared that when he became older, he couldn't hear well anymore. So he was annoyed by this. That he couldn't hear the way he used to. And one night, he woke up and couldn't fall asleep. Suddenly, he heard the noise. Boom, 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 boom. So he was scared and he didn't know what the noise was. And suddenly he realized that it was his heart beating. And since that, he was happy that he could listen to his heart beating, that he could listen to his life, as he said. So I was trying to hear my heart beating, trying, and I was not successful at all. So I gave up trying. And then I began to hear my heart beating, to hear my life. I am recalling Shunryu Suzuki Roshi's word. Buddha nature is our original nature. We have it before we practice Zazen and before we acknowledge it in terms of consciousness. So in this sense, whatever we do is Buddha's activity. If you want to understand it, you cannot understand it. When you give up trying to understand it, true understanding is always there. Good evening, good morning, Rashi and Shinko. Happy to see you again. I would like to read some fragments of our Kuan Roshi's talk that I either understand or I feel close to the understanding. Roshi quotes an interview of Noiri Roshi done by Karl Bielefeld and others in 1973. We American students have probably also felt the same kind of thing, a very special kind of stillness and peace in Suzuki Roshi. Whether he is alone, sitting, walking, whether he is in the middle of a crowd, there is the same kind of peacefulness about him. It is not the peacefulness or calmness that ordinary people think about. This kind of peacefulness is the enlightenment of Dogen. And we, as students of Suzuki Roshi, should continue this tradition and maintain this kind of stillness. What we say about enlightenment is called nirvana enlightenment. The Bodhi style, that's the other kind, belongs to the Rinzai school, often mistakenly considered to be the Zen type of enlightenment. This was more attractive to the West, also to the Polish students. At first glance, a kind of flashy, quick, powerful image that we have of the Zen master. But if we think that this is all that enlightenment is, then we have made a bad mistake. As student of Suzuki Roshi and of Kuun Roshi, we should try to maintain this nirvana enlightenment tradition. In the Zen mind, beginner's mind, Suzuki Roshi says, wherever you go, you should not lose this way of life. That is called being Buddha or being the boss. Wherever you go, you should be the master of your surroundings. This means you should not lose your way. So this is called Buddha, because if you exist in this way always, you are Buddha himself. Without trying to be Buddha, you are Buddha. This is how we attain enlightenment. By repeating the same thing over and over, we will acquire this kind of understanding. But if you lose this point and take pride in your attainment, or become discouraged because of your idealistic effort, your practice will confine you by a thick wall. We should not confine ourselves by a self-built wall. If you try to attain enlightenment as if you see a big star in the sky, it will be beautiful, and you may think, this is enlightenment. But this is not enlightenment. That understanding is literary heresy. Dozens of your enlightenment experiences are like that, some material only, some object of your mind. As if through good practice you found that big star. That is the idea of self and object. It is not the way to seek for enlightenment. And further, reality cannot be caught by thinking or feeling mind. Moment after moment, to watch your breathing, to watch your posture, is true nature. There is no secret beyond this point. We practice Zazen to express our true nature, not to attain enlightenment. And Kuun Roshi comment to Noiri Roshi's words, his words about peacefulness and stillness that students could have felt in Suzuki Roshi. What this means for me is that the Zendo is everywhere. This is the first Zendo, of course, but in your off hours from the Zendo, this is where you should manifest peacefulness. First, you have to receive that peacefulness. Actually, you probably already have it, but you just don't know it. You have it because it comes from yourself, anyway. And when you are sitting somewhere by yourself, you are not by yourself. You are all one with everything. So you are not alone. No one can be alone in this kind of practice. As Suzuki Roshi says, the big mind is always on your side. I find that Ango is tailored in such a way that it promotes peacefulness, the peaceful dwelling. There are times at Ango that everybody is calm in the same time. And this calmness and peacefulness is in accord with the calmness and peacefulness of the nature around. Especially it happens when the day turns into the night. It is the moment of complete peacefulness and complete stillness. Even the bird stop singing. The wind stops. Nothing moves. This is the stillness. Perhaps this is why it is recommended to sit zazen when the day turns into the night and when the night turns into the day. We have our angos in Konchiki. This is our rural center, very beautiful, a very calm place in the pine forest. Over an hour driving from Warsaw. In Warsaw, we have our mother temple in the very downtown of the city. The guardian of Konchiki is Bankyo. He was ordained as a monk by Roshi several years ago. He is a very special person living there as a hermit most of the time. A kind of contemporary hermit, as he is connected to the world by Facebook, where he is very active. So Bankyo, during the communist time, Bankyo was one of the heroes of the underground resistance movement. Today, our Sangha is completed a 7-day sesshin in Konchiki. I haven't participated, but I have heard that everybody is fully satisfied. The sincere practice for 7 days, the sunny beginning of the autumn. We call it the golden autumn, as all the greens turn into red, yellow, orange, purple, etc. This year we will start to build a Sangha house in Konchiki, and then 2 monks will move into and will live there. This is a big step for our Sangha. Basically, actually, our situation is quite different than Sonoma Mountains and Center. We don't have residents. We don't have an office. Our structure is much looser than Sonoma Mountain. We have an abbot, Uji. We have a general board, local boards, and a foundation. But it is different. It is quite different. So the change that 3 people will live in our rural center is something new and something special. In our Sangha, because the structure is not so strong, so people actually engaged in different commitments, almost as, or even as volunteers. We have members in different parts of Poland. And when we meet at Ango or Rohatsu or summer or autumn session, it is like a gathering of the good friends. Several of us know each other since many, many years. Our Canon Sangha was founded by Kuun Roshi in 1988. We were supported by Roshi's visit for over 20 years. Roshi used to come every year. Roshi used to come every year for 1 or 2 months, was giving the public talks, leading our retreats, visiting all his students at their homes. we were trying, at that time, we were trying to copy Sonoma Mountains and Center. And to some extent, we were successful. Roshi attracted many people. So for our sessions would come 70 people or so. Today, we are not so numerous. At our last Ango, there were 30 people practicing, and 6 were practicing online. So we are trying to find our way. And I will quote Suzuki Roshi again about this. Here in America, we cannot define Zen Buddhists the same way we do in Japan. I think you are special people and want some special practice that is not exactly the priest's practice and not exactly layman's. Practice. You are on your way to discovering some appropriate way of life. I think this is our Zen community, our group. Okay, so coming back to myself, I spent my vacation in Corsica, in the mountains. And because it was too hot this summer to do the walking, so I drove down to the sea and spent some time at the beach, at the wild beach. And I realized that for quite a lot of time, I was not aware of the sea, even though my feet were just 2 meters from it. So then I turned my attention to the sea, and I was aware that I was seeing the sea. And this is the mindfulness practice, I guess. And when doing zazen in the pine forest in Konchiki, we are surrounded by the birds singing. We are surrounded by the birds singing and even by the cry of the cranes. It is very beautiful. And Suzuki Roshi said that he was not interested in any kind of mysticism. What he was interested in was to teach his students to hear the bird singing. And I realized that there are 2 kinds of hearing the bird singing. One is that I am hearing the bird singing. And the other is the bird is singing. So there is no I. So I shared this with Roshi, and he said, there is still some duality. He said, when you name something, it is already a projection. So I keep practicing. I'm going to end with another quotation from Shunryu Suzuki Roshi. Buddha nature is just another name for human nature, our true human nature. Thus, even though you do not do anything in Zazen, you are actually doing something. You are expressing yourself. You are expressing your true nature. Your eyes will express, your voice will express, your true nature, your demeanor will express. The most important thing is to express your true nature in the simplest, the most adequate way, and to appreciate it in the smallest existence. That's very beautiful. While you are continuing this practice week after week, year after year, your experience will become deeper and deeper, and your experience will cover everything in your life. The most important thing is to forget all gaining idea, all dualistic ideas. In other words, just practice Zazen in a certain posture. Do not think about anything. Just remain in your cushion without expecting anything. Then eventually you will resume your own true nature. That is to say, your own true nature resumes itself. So that's it. I thank you very much. And I wish you Kamala Harris to be your next president.